So this is all of my climbing gear. A lot of you guys have been requesting this video, so today I'm going to be going through each piece of gear and explaining what it does, just so you can understand what you might need for your adventures. And by the end of the video, I'll tally up how much all of this gear cost me. You guys will help me decide if I've spent too much money on this hobby so far. This is my rope, perhaps the most obvious and important piece of climbing equipment. I like to give my rope names. This one is called Pink Python, and this rope probably cost me around $170. Next up are my two harnesses. The reason I have two is that it's just nice to be able to take people out who don't go climbing and don't have gear, and sometimes that's like a barrier to climbing. So this one's a Black Diamond one, this one's a camp one. This one probably cost me $50, and I think this one cost me $40. Similarly, I have two helmets here. One is a little bit bigger, one is a little bit smaller. This one cost me $25 because I bought it used, and I think this one cost me $50. And then the other piece of equipment that I don't have with me, because if I were to bring them in, they would just smell awful, are my climbing shoes. They're outside, airing out. I climbed in them last night, and I think those cost me $80. All right. Next up, these are my belay devices or rappel devices, but they're usually called belay devices. I've got two of these. These are ATCs, each with a locking beaner on them. And basically they're friction devices that you can use for belaying someone up or rappelling down, and they've got two slots in them, as you can see. I oftentimes carry two just in case I drop one. That would be like the worst thing, to drop your ATC and then not have anything to rappel down. This is a Gree-Gree. It's a similar device in that you can belay someone up or rappel down, but it only has room for one strand of rope. So you're gonna put the rope through there, have it come up that way, go to your climber, but you can only do one strand. So you belay someone up, or you can rappel down on a single strand. You cannot double strand rappel down. The advantage of these though is that they're self-locking. So if you have the rope going through, it'll lock on its own. With that mechanism right there, you can go hands-free. So I'll often use these for filming. Next up, I've got these quick draws, or more specifically, Alpine quick draws. Now the thing with Alpine quick draws, what makes them different, is that you can extend them. So you can have two beaners on the end and then a sling, and it's condensed right now, it's shortened. But when you're up there and you want to extend a protection so that it doesn't cause a lot of rope drag, you just pull it out like that, and now you have a piece of protection that's 3 times as long as it was. I've got 5 of these. Sometimes it's nicer to have more. I've got the gear to make more, but I usually just keep 5 on hand for whenever. Next up are my sport climbing quick draws. These are fixed, they're not extendable, and these are for just more regular sport climbing, but I'll also bring them with me trad climbing, just in case I don't need to extend a placement like fully out, but I want to extend it like just a couple inches. Pause there. The difference between sport climbing and trad climbing. Sport climbing means that there's pre-drilled bolts that someone has put there for you to just clip the quick draws into as you go up. Trad climbing stands for traditional climbing, and that means that you're placing your own gear into the cracks. There's no pre-existing bolts. You have to 100% protect the climb on your own. It's a little bit more old school and a little bit more expensive and harder to get into. There you go. Next up, I've got my ascender. This is for ascending up a fixed line, especially if I'm filming and I want to be able to just hang out or move up a line really fast. This probably cost me $50. Next up are my trad climbing protection pieces of equipment. These are called cams, and I've got 14 of them, which is kind of a lot because they're really expensive, but the reason you have to have a lot, especially if you're doing a lot of different climbs, is that like cracks come in a lot of different, varying sizes. So you need the cams or protection to be able to match that. This obviously is really big, and this one right here is really tiny. These on average cost like 70 bucks new, but I bought a few of these used. So let's just say that I spent on average $60 per cam, and then we'll total that up by 14 or times 14 cams. All right. This right here is my sack of nuts. They also come in varied sizes like hams, but fortunately, they're a little bit cheaper. This was probably $100 total for all of these nuts. And this right here is my nut tool. 10 bucks, and it's for, 10 bucks, it's for removing nuts that have been stuck, either because you fell on them, or because they just got tugged a little bit too hard, and sometimes it's actually hard to get them out of the rock. This is helpful for that. Next up is my sack of slings. These slings probably cost $15 to $20 each, and I've probably got 10 of them in here. Next up is my crack climbing gloves. These basically go onto the back of your hands like this, and they're to protect the back of your skin when you're climbing cracks and you have to jam your hand in, and sometimes it can be really tough on this area of your hand. So this is like rubber padding to just make it a little bit more comfortable. That way you just feel a little more solid. And these are 40 bucks. And lastly, this is my miscellaneous protection. I've got a piton here that you hammer into rocks. I've only used this to make one TikTok. It did get me 10 million views, so kind of worth it. It cost me 15 bucks. And this is an ice screw for if you twist it this way, spin it around, when you place it into a solid chunk of ice, it'll work as a piece of protection for you to fall on. I've never tried ice climbing, but I bought this used just because I feel like I might want to place it one day. Maybe I'll make a TikTok out of it, we'll see. This was 6 bucks. Alrighty, next up I'm going to try and estimate the total amount that I've spent on climbing gear, and we shall see if I've spent a lot of money, spent a medium amount of money, or actually I've gotten away with spending not so much money on this hobby. Alright, so let's start with the rope, $180, $80 for all the belay devices, so 5, there's another 10, say 60, times 14 cams, 55, which was our original number from the first half of the gear, brings us to $1,906. $1,906 is around what I've spent on climbing gear. I've probably spent a little bit more than that because there's some pieces of gear that I've lost or that I'm not accounting for. So let's just say I've spent around $2,000 on just climbing gear alone. That's a lot of money for a lot of people. For me, it seems pretty worth it and not too bad, mostly because I don't really spend my money on much else. I buy camera gear for making videos, and I spend money on going on trips, but I really don't spend a lot of money on going out to eat. I don't really spend a lot of money on clothes. As you can tell, this is a shirt that I got in a thrift store for like 5 bucks. Saving money for the things that matter to me is important, and one of the things that really matters to me is climbing gear. But let me know what you think. Do you think $2,000 is too much to spend on a hobby like climbing? I would love to know. Cheers. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Alrighty.